Hey everybody, I had a guy ask me to do a video on mounting a resin cab to a plastic donor model. And I thought I'd go with my little Richard Petty what if hauler project. What we have is the AMT Ford L Series hauler. Chassis built, just like it's supposed to be. I went ahead and I put the rear cab mount, even though it's not going to be the Ford cab. And what I'm using for a cab, being that Richard Petty was primarily a Chrysler man, I'm using a Dodge CNT 900 from American Industrial Truck Models, AITM. Get a hold of Dave. He's got all kinds of cool kits of vintage trucks. If you're looking for a old Mack, International, all kinds of stuff, he's got them. Now, I want you to be aware, a lot of Dave's castings are based on older castings by Jim Etter. He was casting way back in the 70s and early 80s, from my knowledge. And because he was building curbside models. He wasn't concerned about opening hoods and things like that. So a lot of his models are a bit on the thick side. Nothing that a little grinding, won't take away. Like that big casting spout, it's got to be ground down. Never be afraid of resin, guys. Like I said in my other videos, it's just plastic. It's just another kind of plastic. The only difference is that it uses a different glue. And with always, if you grind or you sand on resin, you have to wear protection, breathing protection, a mask of some kind. This stuff is bad for your lungs, guys. Don't breathe it in. Trust me, I've never done it, but I'm real careful not to. But anyways, he wanted me to show how you would mount a resin cab to a kit frame. The problem is it's different with every cab. There's so many variables. So the first things you have to consider are, will the cab fit, like, in this case, with it being a straight truck, is the cab going to fit where I need it to? Get in there. Isn't it great when things cooperate? Come on now. I put the battery box on. It's tricky to get this sucker lined up. Okay, the first thing you got to consider is, will the cab go in the location that I want it to go? With the tractor, you don't got to worry about it. But as you can see, turned out perfect on this. I'll actually probably, all I gotta do is grind a little bit out of the front right here, and it'll snug right up. And I'm not gonna open the hood and all that on this, so yeah, it's just a transporter. So I would say one of the first things you have to consider is axle placement. Let's put the cab where it goes, and then we're gonna figure out, is the axle going to line up with the center of the fenders like it should? You may have to locate your springs a little further forward, a little further back. No big deal. Cut the locating pins off, fill in the old holes in the frame, and slide away. Okay, the next thing you got to consider is, you want to put a tire on there and you want to see how high do I want that cab to be. If it looks good at the height where it's sitting on this rear cab mount, great. We've got one mount down. Okay. We're going to mock it up with the interior, which is kind of hard to do on these because the interior doesn't like snap in, but your interior more than likely is going to be your secondary mounting location. Maybe right here. Now, there's lots of ways that you can do it. You can, depending on what engine you're using, you can put like a hoop right here. You can just build it up with some plastic. Or you can do like I did on my little Mac here, and you can make, detailed cab mounts. Watch everything fall apart. See the little detailed cab mounts I made right here? Drilled some holes for some detail. My fat fingers out of the way. Yeah, just to give it a little detail. So that's your secondary mounts. Now, you're also going to have a third mount, which is going to be right behind the front here. And it's going to go on the front of the grill. The quickest and easiest way would be to use like sheet plastic, strip plastic, rod, you know. You could use some round rod going up, some square rod going sideways. There's all kinds of ways to do it. And it's hard for me to tell you exactly because like I said, they're all different. But you have to keep dry fitting everything. You have to keep mocking it up as you go to make sure you get everything to fit correctly once you get it all together. Now, this resin kit, it didn't come with a fuel tank, so I had to order those separately. But I wanted to stay with that period look, so I wanted the square tanks on it. But they already have their own brackets. Got a little cleanup need to be done back here. No biggie. They look good on the front. And no biggie at all on those. They'll go right to the frame. Right in the old kit tank location. Super glue, you're done. Comes with a bumper. And that, all you got to do, you got some locating pins. You just got to see if it's going to line up. The locating pins are actually further in than they need to be on here. So it'll mount right up. No modification necessary there. Comes with a little air cleaner. Exhaust stack with a rain cap. Show you the interior there. Got a detailed dash. Got to remember, guys, the masters for these were made way back in the 70s and 80s. You know, Jim Etter was a pioneer. That guy was like he was an alien. He was so far ahead of the game that, you know, it's amazing looking back at the things he made with the materials and the knowledge that he had back then. Most everything he made was fiberglass resin, which is, oh God, that's horrible to work with now. But you get some seats, just plain little seats. They do have some fabric detail on them. Two seat bases. And a whole bag full of goodies. There's 2 headlight buckets, which are unique to the Dodge because they've got these 3 little bars. If I get this crap out of the way here. See them there. I hope this is coming through. I know the glare is bad. I apologize. Lord, I apologize. I got to figure out some other light. I don't know what to use yet. But steering wheel, headlight, buckets, steering column, windshield wipers, turn signals, some Dodge emblems, air horns. So I get those Dodge emblems look really nice. And white metal mirrors with a turn signal hanging from them, and looks like a little spot mirror. That's pretty cool. And these can be polished up. You can polish up white metal, and then it comes with clear sheet plastic and the templates for the glass. And I don't know if all his kits are like this, but this one is. He makes so many different kinds of kits. You know, really rare stuff, really oddball stuff that you can't find anywhere else. So, you know, if you want to build a unique project that you think doesn't exist, go to that website, American industrial truck models and get with Dave, and he may have what you're looking for. He's got garbage truck parts, dump truck parts, just all kinds of cool stuff. But back to mounting this cab, you know, like how I drift off. You know, I start talking about something else. Let me show you this cab up close. Really detailed. The door handles are molded open. Looks nice. Yeah, the outside looks really nice, but the inside needs a little work. Nothing about a day. You know, you could spend one day just cleaning it up, make it look real nice. I don't remember what I paid for this because it was so long ago. I think they're like, gosh, 60 something, 80 something. Don't quote me. It's been a while. They're all different prices. So now, if you're wanting to make a resin cab with a hood that tilts, the primary thing you're going to want to work with is the cab. You want to make sure that cab is mounted exactly where you need it to go. Once you get the cab mounted and you're happy with it, you're going to take and you're going to tape the hood to the cab to where it's lined up perfectly. Okay? You're going to put it on your cab mounts. And then you're going to see, okay, you know, how far do I need, you know, how far of a gap do I have between the bottom edge of the hood, or radiator in this case, and the frame. You know, if you mount your cab kind of high, of course you're going to have a gap. But if you mount it down here on the existing cab mount, which it more than likely will be, the front of the truck ends up in front of the frame rails. So you're going to have to fabricate hinges out of sheet plastic, aluminum rod, you know, whatever you have handy. And again, that is all dependent on what the hood looks like, you know, the scenario of how does the hood look against the frame. Is it further forward, real high? You know, you have to build the hinges based upon the length that they need to be and how they're going to attach to the chassis. For the life of me, I don't know why AMT never made the hoods tilt on the Ford kits. I hate that. And I've made them tilt. I forget how. It was aluminum tubing and something else. It's been years since I built one. But there's all kinds of ways you can make them tilt. It's no big deal. I just hate that they want you to take the hood off. That just leads to things getting lost or broken. Or I like things to be together, like I do with my fifth wheels. And a lot of people know this. When you're dealing with AMT fifth wheels, they want you to glue the fifth wheel to the mount. Well, you know, why do that when you can just drill it and put a pin in it? It's not in there right now. I gotta paint everything. I also add a little handle for detail, little block handle. But you know, just drill your fifth wheels, and that way they're attached, but they can still move, and you won't. You know, you pick up the truck, you won't lose it on the floor. Oh, let me see if I'm covering everything here. Again, when you're working with resin, you have to use either super glue or epoxy. That's the only way that you're going to join resin to plastic or resin to resin. You can't use styrene glue. You can use styrene glue to get your frame all built because it's all plastic. But when it comes to joining the cab to the chassis, you're going to want super glue or epoxy. There's so much more. I know I'm probably missing something here. When you're working with resin also, the very first thing you want to do with these resin parts is wash them. The only product that I recommend to be safe is Wesley's Bleach White Tire Cleaner. That's what Clint Freeman recommends, Jamie Rommler, all these resin casters, that's what they recommend because they know it's safe. They know it will clean the resin And if that caster used mold release, it will remove that mold release. So use the Wesley's bleach white, soak the parts, it won't harm them. Give them a scrub in under hot water with some dish soap after you soak them in the Wesley's, and they're good to go. Then shoot you some primer on them, and that way they're ready for paint. I wouldn't recommend painting directly onto resin. There's one thing that can happen with resin. I seriously doubt it's going to happen with Dave's or Jamie's or anybody like that. But I've had parts that they bleed. After so many years, there's a tiny pocket of resin that doesn't cure, and it works its way to the surface, and it bleeds. You'll get a little wet resin. Man, that'll just screw your paint job. Just kills it. So look it over real carefully. If you see some areas that look thin and there might be a pocket, go ahead and drill it, halfway down. Don't go all the way through. Drill it out, put you some putty, sand it nice and smooth, and then prime it. You always have to remember, resin is way different than kit parts. So there's always going to be work involved. Even though these guys produce great kits, it's up to the builder to make them perfect. So, take your time, do a little work on them, and you'll have an outstanding looking model. That's all I can think of, guys. I wish I knew more to tell you, but being that there's so many differences, like on a cab over, you're more than likely on a cab over. One of the best chassis that I've found to use as a conversion would be like the GMC Astro. It looks kind of like a generic chassis, and it's a short wheelbase, but you could really use any chassis. You don't have to be specific. I usually try to. I mean, if there was a Dodge chassis, I'd use that. But like on my Blue Mule cab, I'm going to use this same chassis, but not this long or anything. Just because it's a Ford chassis, and the rails on the W series were straight like this, here and here. They didn't curve, So this would be a good donor for that kit. But you could use a GMC. You could use, the International kit that just came out. It doesn't matter. Always remember, it's your model. You build it however you want, But that's where it all comes down to. That's where it's going to make it different in how to adapt that resin cab to that chassis. You have to know what you're working with before you can move ahead and figure out how things are going to go together. But like I was saying, on a cab over, it's a little easier. You just make your you figure out how high you want the cab. I guess I can show you here. You would figure out how high you want the cab. First off, again, you're going to need to know your axle placement. Is it far enough forward? Is it too far forward? So don't glue the springs on until you get the cab mocked up. Then you glue your springs on and locate your axle properly. But you're going to need, on a cab over, it's going to need two things: rear cab mounts, front hinges. Or if you're just mounting it solid, front and rear cab mounts. So what I'll do is I'll figure out my height, okay, and I'll probably mock it up with some blocks of plastic on top of the frame rail, like some sheet plastic stacked, to figure out my height. And then the thickness of that plastic will tell me how high my mounts need to be off the top of my frame rails. Like if it's, let's say I stack a 1/4 inch worth of plastic, well then I know I got to mount my mounts down here, but they also need to be a 1/4 inch above the frame rail. That's going to take care of the rear cab mounts. Now for the front hinges, it's basically the same thing. We're going to have the hinges, the locating point for the hinges, and we know that we're going to have the distance from the hinge point to 1/4 inch or more above the frame, because they have to glue to the inside of the back of the cab. So you got to go up a little bit to have, contact point. So more than likely, I'd say the hinges would be about, a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch long from the pivot point to the end of the hinge. That way there's enough surface to glue to the inside of the cab. When you get the hinges made, then you can mock your cab up by moving it up and down and then gluing the hinges when you get it set where you want it. So it's not hard. It just takes a lot of measuring, a lot of figuring out. I wish I could show more. Check this out. Toolbox drawer liners. Isn't that cool? That's the foam padding you put in like a Craftsman toolbox. And what I was going to do is put bare metal foil over it, and it'll have the texture, and it's cushioned. I just put this on here so that when the interior is cast, it'll have that detail, you know. Okay, Jerry just replied to me. On my other video, I was talking about his decals. Modeltruckin.com. MODELTRUCKIN. One word. Modeltruckin.com. All kinds of great decals, guys. Fleet decals, custom paint, factory fleet colors, logos for companies, all kinds of great stuff. I mentioned in my other video that I don't know if you have to clear coat his decals before you use them, and he just said it's not necessary, but you can if you want to. And what I'll be doing is I'll be putting these filter decals on my filters. When I get them on there, I'll take some Future floor polish and a soft brush, and I'll just give them a little brush, and that Future floor polish is going to seal that decal to that filter, and then it won't be visible. The stuff is self-leveling, crystal clear. They'll stay looking great for years. I thought I was going to talk about resin cabs, but I'm all over the place. That's about all I can think of, guys. I know there's more involved, but I'd actually have to be doing it, you know, to be able to tell you exactly what to do. But that's the basics. If there's something that you want more in depth on, that would help me to know what to tell you. You know, if you say, you know, how would I mount this body to this exact frame, or I got like 2,000 kits. I more than likely have what you're talking about. But if you want to mount something specific to a specific frame, if you want to mount something to a specific frame, let me know. Maybe I can help. You know, leave me a comment, and just let me know. And if you like the videos, guys, please share them. You know, I see so many guys asking for help in the groups, and I try to post my link to my videos to help them, but I can't see them all. So if you happen to see somebody saying, how do I stretch a frame, or how do I do this? Well, I've made videos on it. By the time I post this video, there should be 29 videos on there. You have to click on the word videos to see all of them. But there's 29 videos on there, including this one. So, you know, share, and I'm happy as can be. I'm almost at 500 subscribers. I think that's so cool. Hell, I didn't think there was that many truck model builders out there. So, keep them coming. Like if you like, and, you know, leave me a comment if there's something you want me to do. I'll see ya.